Okay, our last presentation before lunch. Very pleased to welcome Nassief Edross from WWT to sort of wrap up and bring and integrate all this together.
Hey guys, thank you. I'm the guy between you and lunch. So, Ifrain, again, that vote of confidence, we felt the same way. Lukma, no hands, we did it. So at the end of the day, what we felt was the force multiplier out of this entire IACD thing has been confidence in our security operations teams, being able to get their morale up and be able to operate at the tempo of the adversary. Just who we are, we're a privately held company, about $9.3 billion in revenue, been voted 6 years in a row as Fortune 100 best companies to work for. What made our entire process work is something called the Advanced Technology Center. We have about 300 to 400 racks of equipment of one or two of everything that a vendor and OEM in information technology manufactures, be that hardware or software. So it's easy in here where we get to develop, and things like Ifrain said, if he did not go that route, we would have to bring him into the ATC and work with us to get that done. So prior to IACD starting, WWT has to answer all these questions in our account teams. These are the technology considerations. If I acquire new technology, am I going to have enough human capital resources to be able to keep up with that? If I acquire new software, am I going to be able to do that? So we always were immersed in the space of how do you spend that dollar on your technology, and are your people, your processes going to be optimized to be able to consume that? This lined up very well with the orchestration market. You also had resource constraint of cybersecurity professionals, and then your costs continue to increase, but your speed of detection, triage, and being able to respond remained the same. So for us, it was, this is the perfect way to start going at IACD and making sure that we solve business problems, but with a great technical benefit of really accelerating the cyber OODA loop. The faster we run through the loop, the better for everyone inside the ecosystem. So these are the questions we were posed with. Where to start? Where are you going to get the most value out of accelerating your cyber OODA loop? Consider this the equivalent of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to meet the bottom to be able to progress to the top. And the work you've done, Ifrain, with OpenC2, we have not gotten there yet. But you've started dabbling, but you see, it sits at the pinnacle of this. Can you collaborate with partners to disrupt a campaign? That is where this is going, and we are going to start putting our development efforts and our research into that. If you can do this, there's tremendous value to your business. At your board, you will be able to say, I detect hygiene issues and operator practices that do not follow industry standards. That's if you've taken care of inventory, telemetry, detection, and triage. So at the end of the day, the technology is on one side of the equation, but you have to be able to also relay that into business level language. So these are the type of experiences that you will get to speak of if you get to orchestrate and automate. This is the approach we took. And I'm sharing with you a little bit of our secret sauce here in the spirit of openness. The first thing we had to do was we had to move to a DevOps approach with our people. We had to embed a developer inside our cybersecurity practice. Traditionally, the cybersecurity practice folks had no capability to code in Python. We received executive sponsorship to embed a developer in our team. When we did that, we could leverage synergies between network programmability expertise for folks that have been automating networks and rollouts and cloud automation for a long time. Just come sit with the cybersecurity team. We need your skills. You don't need to know the IR process, but we need your ability to be able to code for us. The second part was very important. We had to overcome the policy burden that organizations face due to compliance. And we'll speak about that. We're not here to reinvent the wheel. we're here to merge into your current processes and your loops to make sure that we are not going to say, IACD, that framework cannot be adapted. We're going to try and overcome that. And then probably the most important part that we got the biggest bang for the buck in our customer engagements was we started with the end in mind. Only until a customer could tell us, this is how our people and our technology responds to an incident, could we get started to develop their playbooks for them and guide them down a certain path. So all of a sudden, you had IACD becoming the tail that wags the dog. The dog being the selection of OEMs. Does it have an API? Is it orchestratable? If it's not, it becomes a tier 2 vendor. Let's find the tier 1 that is orchestratable. So this is what we found out. When we began with the end in mind, it became really easy for customers to understand where their investments are going to help them in accelerating the OODA loop. Then this is something that we decided has to happen. We have to simplify the complex. It is our mantra at Worldwide Technology. So whichever platforms we chose, we work with, and the processes we were going to do, it had to be simple, and we were going to seek standardization, be it an API, be it OpenDXL, how you reference, be it OpenC2. There had to be a standard that we were going to try to jump onto to make sure that we can share that. And then this is where the power of a system integrator came into play for us. Due to our nature of the relationships with our partners, the OEM vendors, we were able to have strategic discussions with them and asking them for help when we bridge disparate technologies together for when a standard did not exist yet. So I'm hoping you get the feel for this is how we approached it. And if you can take any components of this inside your organization, I think that would benefit you because you've learned from our mistakes. And again, we started with the end in mind. Feel free to speak to us afterwards if you want more detail on this. So simplify, we had to map out the IR process. Just like you did, Ephraim, we figured out there'll be an investigation, containment, recovery. We want to do that enrichment. Very few folks are going to automate anything without enrichment because you get few chances to do this, you break something, and you didn't do your proper checks and balances, you won't get a second chance to do it. And then the ingestion sources, what can you ingest? When we figured out that roadmap, that is the platform, the foundational elements that we needed to do, we spent a few days mapping out an orchestrator. Okay? We took an orchestrator and we looked at it off the shelf. If I know during my incident response process, I'm going to want to detonate a file or a URL, what is currently inside the orchestrator that doesn't require any custom development? Don't have to write a new app, no coding. So all of a sudden, we had this map. Our customers then would engage us and say, tell me, if I need to do file detonation and I've got FireEye, can it work with this orchestrator? We would come to a list like this, share this with the customer. Mr. Customer, let's go through this. In this release, FireEye is not there, but let's go contact the orchestrator. If they don't have it, you know you've got to do some custom coding if that's the standard for you. So you extrapolate that across the entire realm of this. We took this further in forecasting. We wanted to do this for OpenC2 as well. So just as you mapped out your incident orchestrator, we mapped it out for if this is how it's in the orchestrator language today, and the OpenC2 is a proposed standard, this is what we are going to have to make sure that we translate that. So your proxy will come very handy for us because we can send you these commands to your proxy, and your proxy can just push that to wherever it needs to be. So what does this actually deliver to an organization, to an entity? Overcoming policy burden. If you have an organization that is under compliance, do not modify firewall rules during production hours. Your first response may be automation of incident response and orchestration will not work for our organization. As a system integrator, we come in with our routing, switching heritage, engage the other parts of our company, and we implement a technical control that accomplishes the same thing. In this case, it happened to be a BGP remote-triggered black hole architecture. What did we have to do? We had to invest in our developer to code that app to give you the same action that a firewall would do, meaning take the bad traffic out of the network, but never touch a firewall during production hours. That's one example of overcoming the policy burden. Standardization. The API has proven to be king. At the first release of an orchestrator and a standard platform inside an organization, there had been no API that existed inside the platform of firewalling for the organization. As soon as that platform released in the next version of code with an API, our developer, who's sitting right over there, Todd understood the REST API calls that are going to be needed to that SourceFire platform, Cisco platform. He knew how to code it, bring it in, and all of a sudden, a Fortune 100 customer got to bring in a firepower architecture into their orchestration and incident response. But again, the keyword there was, it was a REST API, and we found out that that standard has been the gold standard for orchestration in what we've done so far. Simplifying and standardizing again, code reuse. If we've already developed applications for things such as Ansible, which is prevalent inside network automation, infrastructure automation, wouldn't it be nice if we can consume a platform where we can simply reuse the code that was written for Ansible and now bring it into Security Orchestrator? All of a sudden, your application delivery controllers are now able to be part of cybersecurity incident response. And so that's the benefit we found with simplification and standardization, being able to reuse code as much as possible. And then, of course, there's a community and an ecosystem that drives all this. Speaking about the ecosystem, if you have made investments in 2 best-of-breed vendors inside your organization, but right now they do not play well together, consider worldwide technology to be the land of Switzerland at that point. We will broker those relationships and those discussions between different development teams who have no formal development plans on the roadmap to make things work. The point being, on all these slides, on the last 3 slides that I've shown you, these were business problems that orchestrators were used to overcome. At the end of the day, delivering an accelerated cyber OODA loop, running through that faster. So we had to figure out which system of record are we going to use, where are we going to code it, how are we going to attack that. Because as soon as you morph information from one vendor to another and something breaks, you better have a solid system of record to answer how that works. And so I'm going to close with this. This is our motto. We do it. We've got the Advanced Technology Center that has powered this and has allowed us and afford our engineers the capability to be able to deliver that. And on behalf of all the men and women at Worldwide Technology, we're happy to serve and see how we can make sure that you guys get a better posture in the workplace. Yes, sir.
We actually assisted our IC customer in winning a couple of Director Achievement Awards for doing things like adding a programmer in place where we took like Tanium, right, created some scripts, you know, to isolate the machine and take a incident response process down to like under 30 minutes, where number crunchers start seeing millions of dollars saved.
Yes.
Right? So I think that's pretty cool that you brought stuff like that up. Just looking at everything that you have, what I didn't see, and maybe you can highlight on this, is how did this really solve the problem of, third-party software, coming into the infrastructure infected, things of that, software assurance for, cybersecurity for software supply chains, which is becoming, more and more prevalent in today's infrastructures.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that. And yes, I did not cover that. At WWT, automation is a core capability split across 5 different swim lanes, so to speak. There's cloud automation, infrastructure automation, network automation, DevOps automation, and security automation, which we're starting to speak of as incident response automation. We're going a little bit deeper. So for your software assurances, that is happening inside the cloud automation and inside the infrastructure automation practices, meaning if I build a new data center now and I have to deploy at scale very quickly, or I've got a recovery time objective or a recovery point objective, those software assurance automation pieces live inside infrastructure automation and inside network automation and cloud automation. This is incident response automation. So if you need to verify a hash or capability as part of that process, we can certainly bring it up there. But inside any organization, if you say automation, security automation is probably the last one at the table. There's been much more automation happening. So I hope that answers your question. So please let me know. Good? Yes. Any more questions, folks? Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.